everybody today. You have joined us for Wednesdays with Whitney, and I am here today with Sheree Clark, owner of Fork in the Road, and what has become a personal friend of mine. And we are in her beautiful home. You get just a little tidbit of that behind you, but I can assure you that the rest of the home is just as fabulous. I got the full tour and I was amazed. So today we are here to talk with Sheree about the art of transitioning, because you did that very bravely about 9 years ago, and it was, we've talked a little bit about that, but I think as a small business owner, it's one of the hardest things to do, is pivot when you've created something wonderful and successful and then deciding to do something different.
Yes, it is a tough one, I know.
So we're gonna build up to that. But the first thing we want to talk about was how Sheree and I met. And I think it was just one of those kismet meetings. Sheree walked into the studio one day. She had booked headshots. We talked on the phone. And then I remember it being a rainy, gloomy, just miserable Iowa winter day.
Lightning.
I think it was February.
Yeah, it sucked.
Yeah, it was really bad. And I called her and I said, so,
we might not do
this because I work with natural light, as so many of you know. And I was like, I don't know if we have any light. And we decided, you know what, like Sheree done her hair, I had a makeup artist coming, you had all your props.
My stuff was pulled, my nails were done. I'm like, damn it, we gotta do this.
And I was like, okay, we're gonna do this. And that was when I knew it was gonna be okay.
Yeah.
Because your attitude on the phone was, you know what? It's going to be okay because I'm going to show up and I'm going to make it okay. And I have that exact same attitude. And when someone can jump in at that level with me, I'm like, okay, we're good. Yeah. We're good.
And I figured if it wasn't ever going to break, that you might have champagne there.
Yes.
So we could.
You were right about that.
I knew it.
We didn't get into the champagne, but we should have next time.
Yeah.
So after that experience, Sheree and I just continued chatting. And so the day, another note on this day, Sheree was in my studio the day after I had a breakup. And she didn't know this, we didn't know each other from anybody, but I felt so comfortable with you. And maybe it's because we'd just gotten through that hurdle of like,
the weather.
The weather together, somehow that was a hurdle we needed to jump. And I was just so impressed with your ability to make me feel at ease.
Oh, thanks.
Usually that's my job in my space, but on that particular day, I really wanted to show up for you and be present and be...
And you did.
Well, thank you. But you made that so easy by, you supported me. And I was like, this is incredible. This woman's incredible.
Well, I'm a coach.
Yes.
So you kind of pick up on what people have going on and what they need, and you want to support it. Yes. And it doesn't necessarily mean gloss over it or cover it up. Yes. It means support it. And that might mean, hey, if you want to cry, but you didn't need to cry.
I didn't need to cry.
You just needed to work.
I did. And that's something that's, for those of you who know, if I'm going through a tough time, working and shooting, those are my Zen moments. And you were just the perfect participant in that, because we had so much fun. Sheree tell everybody about all the fabulous things you brought, because she was the most prepared client I have ever experienced.
Well, here's the thing. I had owned an advertising agency in my past life, so I kind of knew I'd worked with shooters before, and I knew I didn't want to run the show. I wasn't an art director. I wanted to be directed, but I wanted to have like lots of stuff at my disposal and your disposal more than anything. So I brought several different outfits, and I brought accessories galore, and then I got some fresh flowers because I thought, you know, it's a crappy ass day.
We need some brightness in our life.
Yeah, a pop of color.
Yes.
And we ended up using
almost everything.
I think.
Well, she brought green juice because your nutrition is a huge part of your coaching.
Yes.
And so instead of champagne, we had a huge wine glass full of green juice. So beautiful, so vibrant, and so you.
And the reason that I picked it, well, one, I wanted to drink it, but two, I knew that it would be like, if I'm wearing something like this, you need some, you
need something extra,
right? Yeah.
Well, and the other thing, she brought this amazing. I'm gonna have to like rent this thing from you. This amazing red chair, and then she had these leopard pants and this red. You'll see all these photos, but this red necklace, and I was like, oh my gosh, this woman shows up. And that was you just like impressed me top to bottom.
But here's the other thing. That's not an outfit I had ever worn before.
Really?
It was pieces, and I put it together thinking of a shoot.
Yeah.
And now, since then, I've worn it.
Yeah.
So it just goes to show you your inspiration comes from everywhere.
Everywhere. I love that. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So when was the last time you'd had your headshots done before our experience?
It had been 9 years.
9
It
years.
was 2009 when I left my old
Okay.
business. And
So
started a new one.
you did these headshots to start the first time to start your new business.
Correct.
So something Sheree and I have talked a lot about is transitioning, because it's something that we're both, as small business owners, you have to be able to do that, but I think it's one of the hardest things to do. And as I was learning about Sheree, she said, I used to own an advertising agency, and I was like, well, that's interesting. Tell me more about that. So tell me more about that.
Well, I owned it for 25 years. And so, and it evolved and grew over time. It started out to be just myself and my business partner. And then we grew over, as I said, over time and to having clients worldwide. And it was big and successful. And I wrote books and I got to fly all over the world and do fun things. And it was great until it wasn't.
Yeah.
And then when it wasn't, it really wasn't.
And like, I think that happens slowly. Tell me if
Yeah.
I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Because I'll find moments or weeks where I'm like, wait a second, like something's off here.
Right.
And then I'll course correct and I'll be like, okay, I'm back.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I'm in alignment with where I wanted to go. But what was that point for you when you were like, okay, this is just not serving me anymore. This is not where I'm headed.
Well, Whitney, like you said, it's a slow build. So there are little jumping off points along the way where you're like, hey, it's not working, and so you do something to kind of fix it or to kind of course correct, or actually, sometimes it's like a Band-Aid.
Yeah.
It's like, for me, it was like, I'll write another book. I'll start another project. I'll volunteer for this. I'll go to culinary school. I'll do something to distract myself. Shiny object.
Well, because that gives you energy at the time.
Right. It gets you through.
Yeah.
And it's because you don't know. Sometimes it might be, I just need a temporary fix. I'm just bored. It's just like cutting your hair or changing your makeup or getting a makeover, something like that. But the point came for me when I knew that the Band-Aids weren't going to work anymore, when it was like, I can't just write another book, take another class, do another project.
You exhausted those options as far as healing.
That was right. And the pivotal moment for me came, and I've shared this with you, Whitney. One morning I went to church and I just started to cry. And the sermon, I'm sure, was lovely, but I wasn't listening to the sermon.
Wasn't what was happening.
I looked at my watch and said, pardon me, God, oh shit.
Yeah.
In 24 hours, I have to go back. And I owned it.
Yeah.
And I knew, I was like, I can't just cover this up anymore. I've got to address it because this is me and I'm not authentic. I'm not living my truth.
Well, and I think I'm very fortunate. I'm still passionately in love with the business that I'm doing. Who knows? There could come a day where that's not true. And how scary was that? Because just if I have to look 20 years in the future and say, how do I unravel this thing that I have been working on every day for 25 years?
Right.
How does that happen?
Well, so you would think, when people ask me that question, sometimes they ask me the question like this. They'll say, you were so courageous. Where did you find the courage to do that? And here's the thing. When you know something, you just flip and know it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't about finding courage. It was about that it hurt too much to stay. Because the disconnect between the person that I am and the person I was representing myself as was like this. And I said, I can't do this. It's exhausting.
Yeah. And I was just speaking earlier today, and we were talking about core values and personal branding. And this is something I know you think a ton about as you transitioned, and always, but as you transitioned into your business. And I was talking about energy, and that if you're not living in alignment with what's truly you, then every day is exhausting.
Exactly.
Every single day.
Yes.
But not only did you, and So what was pulling you? What was taking you to that next step?
The thing that had taken me to the next step was that I had found pieces of my joy again outside of work. So it was, as I said, writing books, taking classes, learning, growing. I loved helping other people. Yeah. My friends would come to me with their issues or their problems or their whatever, and I'd be like, oh, I can help. And they'd leave and they'd be like, oh, thank you. They'd be so grateful. Yeah. And you'd think I'd be spent. No, I was like,
you felt energized.
That was good. That was fun. Let's do it again. Yeah, exactly.
Come over to my house.
Have another crisis.
What is that? I don't know the exact phrase. That whatever people come to you for the most is what you should be charging for.
Right, exactly. Yes, that's very true. Yeah. And for me, it was a plethora of things. Yeah. For me, it ended up in the beginning having a lot to do with health, and health meaning physical health and how you eat and how your body moves and those kinds of things. Yeah. But health is not just the physical body.
No, it's not a section.
Right, exactly. It's the whole you. And so the mind, body, spirit, all of those things, vocation, relationships, your relationship with community, whether or not you volunteer, all of that. Yeah. That's part of life too. And I was plugged into it. And when I started to get the fire back for me, I started thinking to myself, not only is my fire back, I got enough left over. I can light your flame and yours. And how about you in the back? Do you need a little bit of this?
Yeah. Well, I think that's so, when you're energized, or I can speak from when I'm really energized, I can go out and say like, here, let me give.
Right.
But when I get myself into a position where maybe I've said yes to too many things I shouldn't have, or I'm doing something that I'm like, oh, wow. Yeah. I made the wrong decision here. Fortunately, most of mine are short-term decisions that I learn from. As a young business owner, you find yourself in a lot of situations where you're like,
can't wait till this is over.
I shouldn't have said yes, but I did, and it's gonna be a learning experience, but in 1 week, I'm gonna be able to be more present.
Exactly.
But what's that? I think what's interesting to me, what's the, can you describe the feeling between something when you're in the business and you're getting through it? Because I'm sure you experience challenges now where you're like, I'm going to get through something versus I'm done with this thing. Can you articulate the difference between that?
Yes.
That's a challenging question.
It is a challenging question, but it really speaks back to the whole thing about when do you know when it's time to go? And it's that thing, it's that sense. It's the sense that I had when I walked into this house and the realtor opened up the door. And I bought this house in 1989.
It's amazing.
It's really cool and I love it. And I walked in and I didn't even get 4 steps in and I said to myself, I'm going to live here and I'm going to live here a really long time. And I was right. 1989, that was an eternity ago, and the interest rates were 10 1/4. So holy cow, that's how long ago it was.
Yeah.
So it would be the same thing. I would say there's a moment, there's a piece, there's a part of knowing. If you think from here instead of here, if you can let go of I got to make money, this is due, that's due, I've got this problem, I've got that issue. If you can get beyond that and say, if I do what I love, if I follow my passion, the money really will follow. The other things will happen. You can get through the short-term pain to get to the long-term payoff.
And that is, truly, that right there, getting past the brain, the money things that they're gonna happen when you transition. If you can get through that, I feel like whatever's on the other side of the door, if you're passionate about something, people show up for you.
Yes.
But I think that's the most challenging part. Our fear getting in the way of what we really, really want.
And I think when you take a risk or you make a commitment, don't do it half-baked. Just go into it. And that's easy advice to give and hard to live through.
Well, and then how do you know what's my most? Yeah. Like when you say don't go half-baked, I think that sometimes we have a tendency, if we're not quite sure about an idea, to maybe think we're giving it our all, but there's still those hesitations, those little things that keep us back. And when I talk to fellow business owners, I'm just like, okay, you're doing this is great. What scares you?
Right.
What is really, really scary to do?
Hand sweating.
Yes. And then I really think you should go do it.
That's right.
Exactly. Because we've been confidence. the idea of confidence is not the idea, it's the building of it. And truly, when we talk about building confidence, I'm like, it is a process.
Yes.
It is not something you're born with.
And it's not steady Eddie.
No. I was talking to a good friend. We didn't talk about this beforehand, but I was talking to a good friend about doubt today. Fellow business owner. And we were talking about this idea of doubting ourselves. And she said, I'm in a really tough time where I'm doubting myself a lot. And I said, not that it's not, there are times when that's going to be bigger or less.
Yes. But
I think as a small business owner, at least from my own experience, there's always a little thing that's like, wait, what? I think I can do what? And then I just go do it. It doesn't stop me, but I experience that doubt. And I'm super lucky that I have gone through enough stuff that sucks that I know that I can just keep going through that stuff.
Yes.
And it just gets better. Somehow it just gets better.
It does. And here's one way it can get better. It's have people around you who don't share your doubt and have confidence in you. And that is the big thing. And that's why, when we were talking about having my portrait done, and I don't mean this to be, but I will say it made me feel real to go and get that done and to look at those and go, I am a confident woman. Yeah. Look at her. Yeah. She's got it going on.
Yeah, she does.
And that, that feeling, that validation, not just the photos, but what you said, because you asked me questions then. Yeah. You asked me questions that let me know you were like, I don't know you, but I like what you have going on. Yeah. When you can be around that, and I hope this doesn't sound egotistical. It's not. But sometimes you've got the doubt and the fear and the shaky hands, and you need your friends to go, oh no, wear the red dress. Yeah. Wear the red dress. And the big heels. Yes. And that you need that. And you need to have that confidence, and sometimes it can't come from you. If you live alone and you work alone and you're all of these things, and so much of my life is alone, and I look in the mirror and I'm like, black and Spanx and flats. Yeah. And then my friends will be like, you need to change. Yeah, you need more of what you are. Like more color. Right. I love, oh my gosh, what you just said, that having the other people in your life that can reflect who you are back to you. Yes. Because sometimes, and I think that is something, that's what you do as a coach. That's what I do as a photographer. There's a small, large component when I'm with somebody that it's like, you need to see you. And you do the exact same thing. It's just how we choose to do it. Right. But I called a friend this morning because I was having one of those moments of doubt, and I said, so I need 5 minutes, and I need you to just a train of you can do it. I need it. Pump you up. Yes. And I left that conversation feeling like a superhero. Yes. And so finding those people, it can be really hard. It can be hard because it may not necessarily be your inner circle. It might not be the place that you think it should come from. Yes. And sometimes you think it should come from spouse, partner, lover, business partner, should. Let go of that. Stop putting that on that other person. Yeah. It comes from where it comes from. And sometimes it can come from someone that starts out as a casual acquaintance. Yes. That then becomes a cheerleader. That just impacts you and you're like, how did that just happen? Exactly. So it can come from any place. And it can even come from strangers. Oh, those are the best. It is. It really is. It truly is. And then one other little secret. Sometimes it comes, if it needs to come from within, for me, it comes from helping other people. If I can stop focusing inward on all of the stuff that I am not confident about, not capable of, not good enough at, don't have this, don't have that, aren't pretty enough, any of it, and then can get out and go help somebody that's less fortunate than me, I can walk away thinking, I do have something to offer, damn it. And I just got thanked, and I just gave, and it's all good. Yeah. Bring it on. We are going to end right there, because that is the message I always want to leave people with, because that's the most beautiful thing. Cool. So thank you so much for being on here with me today. You're so welcome. Oh my gosh. And ladies and gentlemen, next week I'm going to have a super big announcement. So join me for that as I talk to you about my next transition. Cliffhanger. Bye guys.